Joining us now is someone who helped successfully dismantle drug cartels in Mexico and Colombia. He is a retired FBI agent. Dennis Franks, good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Mitch. It's my pleasure.
And I think what everyone's wondering is, are these cartels, these murderous drug cartels, are they ever going to be held accountable for this or all of the crimes they are responsible for on both sides of the border? And if so, how?
If you're asking if they'll be held 100% accountable, I don't think so. But I think some action is going to be done. I think that the way the U.S. government is going to come down on the Gulf cartel or whatever this group is. And of course, they'll have to have the Mexican authorities' cooperation. But the problem is there's been so much corruption throughout Mexico for decades, if not longer, that it's a unsurmountable task.
Insurmountable. So I said, can the United States trust Mexico to investigate and prosecute? That's what I wrote down here for question number 2. It sounds like no.
Well, I think as far as I think they will find the perpetrators of this act, and I'm sure they will be prosecuted either in Mexico or they'll be extradited to the United States. But as far as the overall structure of the cartel and the activity, I don't foresee that diminishing anytime soon.
Well, and we just heard Robert Sherman say that Mexico will not accept any sort of foreign interference. So there are some people on our side of the border who are saying we should be sending American troops into Mexico. But that is a sovereign nation. That would be like an invasion. Is there any situation or any circumstances under which you could see Mexico allowing the United States to get involved at such a level as to send any sort of armed presence into Mexico?
I don't think so at this time, but it's feasible because there've been situations in the past, such as in Colombia, where U.S. military was involved in extraditing and eradicating labs and cartels. But Mexico, I don't see that happening anytime soon. I think it is possible if there's enough pressure put on the Mexican government, and I think even by their own citizens, that they could raise their voices enough so that U.S. would be allowed some involvement in taking more stern action, militarily perhaps, but it could be, just the law enforcement activities there could be increased, and the number of personnel could be increased in Mexico.
We are investing heavily in the Mexican economy. We are investing heavily in diplomacy with Mexico. Is any of it doing any good, or is this a waste of our time?
It's not a waste of time because, we have the FBI has a legal attaché office in Mexico in 180 countries. That's the term for it. But they're the head of the FBI there, and there are a number of agents working there, not only in Mexico City, but about 5 other satellite offices. And there is cooperation. And with DEA has a very large presence in Mexico. There's a lot of cooperation on some levels. There are a lot of Mexican law enforcement who truly want to do the right thing. It comes to higher up sometimes that that's where there's not as much cooperation, and there's a lot that is accomplished, but not enough.
Attorney General Merrick Garland was asked recently about designating these Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations. And we're going to play a soundbite. Here's what he had to say about it.
Look, the cartels are responsible for the deaths of Americans, and we are fighting as hard as possible. The DEA and the FBI are doing everything possible to dismantle and disrupt and ultimately prosecute the leaders of the cartels and the entire networks that they depend on.
So regarding the terrorist designation, he had mentioned in front of Congress, I believe it was, that there were some considerations, diplomatic considerations. Is the concern here that if you designate the cartels a terrorist organization, you're essentially calling Mexico a state sponsor of terror, and that would change our diplomatic relation in a number of ways? Is that the concern, or is there something else at play here?
There's that concern. And first of all, this seems to be a shift in policy. I haven't heard this before, the possibility of these cartels being designated as terrorist organizations. That's certainly a step up from where it has been in the past. The resistance is coming from Mexico. Even the president of Mexico has already espoused his views that that would be an invasion of Mexico.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation in your cable lineup. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-based, unbiased coverage.